Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now this episode, as you can tell, I am sick. I don't know of what. It's probably a cold or something, or it could be the or the flu or whatever. It doesn't matter. Much like a mailman, no matter what, I'm getting these episodes out on time. I want to go I want to go more years of having a consistent video upload schedule. And I don't care about the fact that this is going to definitely hurt my throat when the episode is done. We just gotta keep being positive. That's what these, at least for the first couple of weeks for the podcast, it will be that. I will do positive episodes. The main topics of all of them will be positive for the entirety of the month, with the exception of the 31st or maybe the 24th, depending on patrons. We're gonna try and stay positive and look to the future of this year in our Lord 2022. With that out of the way, let's get right into the news. The first news story is going to be from a foreign land known as Japan. Now, even though I already talked about the Japanese parliamentary elections last year, Japan is going to be holding elections, I think, this year for their other legislature, the House of Councilors. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, if you see the card, you know what this is. A manga creator is going to be running for office in Japan. The first thing that I did was immediately look for his party registration, and sadly, he's a member of the Liberal Democrats. And it's weird because it actually kind of makes sense, because Japan always has this weird thing of, like, they're really weird when it comes to, like, their, like, everything else, but, like, they always have, like, this prim, proper, like, thing. They'll create all these wild, crazy things, but then the creators behind them are, like, just really normal, really average guys. The artist in question is Ken Akamatsu, best known for AI Love You, and then Love Hina, and his longest work being Negima Master Negimagi, and its sequel series UQ holder. But there's not much else I can say. I don't know much about, like, his works. I don't know much about his platform. One thing that he did say about his platform is that he's running to protect freedom of expression. So maybe he's literally just a single issue guy. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, even though I probably won't be paying attention to him anymore. Speaking of foreign countries, now let's move on to Mexico, where we have two stories. First, a statue of AMLO was torn down. Now, the interesting thing about it is that the statue was put up 2 days ago, and the place that they put it in was Altamamuco, which is in the state of Mexico, and it is the hometown of Enrique Peña Nieto, the person who preceded AMLO in presidential, like, things. Now, AMLO, I don't think he minds that much. Like, he stated that he opposes the idea of, like, building statues in his honor, like, sort of like in that vein of Latin American leaders that kind of try to push away the idea of a cult of personality, except for Ortega, but they end up usually getting a cult of personality anyways, because people just like them so much. But I can totally see this, like, being a talking point for AMLO. AMLO will probably just be like, see, what they've done to this statue is what the neoliberals want to do to the fourth transformation. And it's just, it'll be funny to see if he actually does do that. That'll be hilarious. But I mean, that story isn't really that important. It just happened, so I was like, oh, this could tie into the next thing, because something else happened in Mexico. You see, for those who have no clue what has been going on in Mexico, one of the things AMLO has been pushing for since the day he was elected was the idea that in the midterms, like, yes, in the midterms, but, like, the idea that would be in the middle of his term, he would host a referendum, and the referendum would be on himself. It would basically be a recall election against AMLO. Not a formal one, because those aren't allowed in the Mexican Constitution, I don't think. But the idea would be that he would host a referendum, and it would basically say, do you approve of AMLO, yes or no? And then, whatever the results would be, would determine what AMLO does next. if a majority of people do not like a majority of people who vote do not like AMLO's administration, he says, oh, I will resign, and you can pick a new president. One of the major problems that many people see is that, many people are like, oh, this is pointless, because polls indicate that no matter, AMLO will win, AMLO would win the referendum. The referendum is literally just basically a boost of his ego, and people argue that his campaign style is essentially he's basically tried to do an endless campaign since 2005, back when he first ran for president, although technically I guess you could say he was endlessly campaigning before he became president because he held elected office prior. But his style is essentially endlessly campaigning, so the idea would be that he would continue to campaign for this referendum, because, again, one of the big things that AMLO's trying to push is something called the fourth transformation. Everybody in this who knows about Mexican politics at this point knows what the fourth transformation is supposed to be. The idea would be we had all these big transformations prior. We had the War for Independence, we had the Reform Wars, we had the Revolution, and now we will have a fourth transformation that will essentially be a non-violent revolution. It's something that the conservatives have actually argued for in America. They said, Mexico needs a revolution. Well, I mean, not all of them. I'm talking about only Razor Fist. But he's still definitely trying to push for this big recall. Now, the thing is, this is currently a big court battle between the INE and the Morena, his party, and the Mexican, basically the Mexican Supreme Court as well. The idea, because everybody is telling AMLO, no, don't do this. There's no point. We don't have the money to do it, so there's really no point. Many people are even trying to claim, this is potentially a lead-in to something that AMLO might do in the future. For those who don't know, it's been a common urban myth that AMLO has been trying to rewrite the Mexican Constitution so that he could do something, basically change the Constitution up so that Mexico would be a lot more socialistic, and or might even be open to rewriting it so that he could run for another term. Neither of them are likely. AMLO has basically said he's not in favor of that. He's really just trying to work within the system that Mexico has, but he is still pushing hard. My thoughts are personally, either or. The idea of a elected official having the ability to be recalled and offering himself as the ability to remove himself from office early than expected, the idea is fine. And he says that I have enough signatures. He said he has 10 million signatures to do it, thus indicating that this referendum would be a lot like the other referendums that he would hold, but instead this one might actually have a lot more people turn out, because this one could literally determine the fate of the president. But at the end of the day, I'm good either way. And I could literally just move on and just be okay, I've tried and it's not working. Might as well just focus on trying to get the fourth transformation done. But basically, many people have been saying, all the opportunities that AMLO has had to try and make the fourth transformation a thing have kind of been a bunk. He wanted to expand his majority in the midterms, and that didn't end up happening. He actually shrunk his majority in the, Chamber of Duties. Not duties, deputies! Dang it! I had deputies in my head, but then I said duties. Like I said, he was trying to do everything he can, but he's still doing fine, but it's just not at the degree that he probably had in mind. And maybe he's just going to be the opener for a future president, which I'm down with. More leftism is good. So anyways, next story is an old joke. These next couple stories are actually going to all revolve around legal battles. The first one is going to deal with this channel's meme, Aaron Coleman. Aaron Coleman, a 21-year-old Kansas lawmaker, for those who have no clue. He's a lawmaker that has been making the rounds on Twitter and all these other platforms because he's just genuinely on paper, it seemed nice. It's a 21-year-old Democratic Socialist beat a multi-term incumbent? Oh my goodness, that's so awesome. But then it turns out Aaron Coleman is literally the biggest piece of shit in the world. He abuses his girlfriend. He did revenge porn on her. And in this recent legal battle, he apparently drunk drove. So he's just all around a really bad person. He's on and off again caucus with the Democrats because the state Democratic Party is doing everything they can to try and get rid of him. This is the 5th time that they've asked him to resign over a scandal they did. And the most that he did was resign from the Democratic caucus before returning not that long afterwards. He's really just not a good person. Anyways, from one not good person to another, Andrew Cuomo. Okay, so apparently, here's what happened. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo won't face criminal charges stemming from allegations from 2 women, including a state trooper, that he planted unwanted kisses on their cheeks, a suburban prosecutor said Tuesday. It's the latest in a series of decisions about whether a raft of sexual assault or harassment claims against Cuomo will end up in criminal court. This is bad. I mean, no offense, but I'm just saying, if they're going to throw out a couple of cases, who's to say they're not going to throw out more? I know we're trying to be positive, and there's still positivity. The Attorney General, Tish James, is still going to try and push everything she can to try and fight Cuomo on this. But the thing is, we know for a fact that the libs are going to try and, they basically already have tried to redeem Cuomo in some capacity. Like, oh, come on. And Cuomo has been talked about and has even made whispers about running for certain offices himself. Unlike Al Franken, who had the decency to step away and try to actively not run for office anymore, Cuomo and all these other New York politicians are POSs that are so bad that they're just gonna do it. Remember Anthony Weiner? He sexted underage girls, and then he's like, "Oh, I'll run for New York mayor," and it's like, no. We live in a society where people can literally just point blank do something incredibly egregious and then just walk away scot-free. Speaking of which, let's move on to the next story. Ghislaine Maxwell is dead. I mean convicted. The trial of Ghislaine Maxwell just happened, the wife of Jeffrey Epstein, and it turns out that she was found guilty, and for doing the things that she did. She was convicted of 5 of the 6 counts, including 1 count of sex trafficking, and she faces up to 65 years in prison. No offense, but she's not going to serve it. She's going to die. She's going to die. That is a fact. She is going to die. Ghislaine Maxwell is going to die. Mark my words. In this month or the next month, Ghislaine Maxwell will be dead. She is 100% dead. She will not be serving those 65 years in prison. And she's not going to reveal all of the names in the black book. She's not going to reveal all of the people who definitely did molest girls. But on the bright side, she's going to go to jail or die. So either way, it's a win. Speaking of, that was a terrible transition. These people would not like it that I preceded their story with Ghislaine Maxwell. But here we go. So, as we know, it's 2022 elections coming up, and as such, districts are being drawn really fast. And the ones that just got finished were in Michigan. But here's the thing. The Michigan district has been drawn so that now we have 2 Democratic incumbents fighting each other. And take a wild guess. What are the partisan divides between these 2 incumbents? One is a moderate, and one is a progressive. It is Haley Stevens, and Andy Levin. They will both be fighting in Michigan District 11. I remember months ago, somebody in a DM group I was in said that they were going to try and do this to Levin, and I always said that this was going to happen to somebody. I just didn't know who. Because this always happens. Whenever the districts are being redrawn, it just so happens that progressives will mysteriously have their district be eaten up by another incumbent. In the 2012 elections, Dennis Kucinich and Mark Kapner were drawn into the same district. And in that same election cycle, Brad Miller and David Price were drawn in the same district, basically trying to get rid of the 2 progressives and replace them with, not replace them, but keep the moderates, but lose the progressives. This always ends up happening, and looks like Levin is gonna have to try hard to get that election, especially considering it appears that liberal Democrats have actually rushed to hate him now. They're like, Levin, how could you? Even though he literally announced not that long after the district was redrawn, because that's where his home is, he stated point blank, my house is in the middle of this district. This is my home district now, so I run in this district. But how dare you, Levin? How dare you run against a fellow incumbent Democrat? I say, sucks to be her. Haley Stevens is going down. Anyways, now let's move on to the main topic of this video, because that ties in really well. Now, for the things that I chose for, the positives, for the first couple of episodes, all those things that I posted in that community post poll, they'll be done this month. Because again, I want to stick to the positives, I think. Maybe the last one won't be, because we still have the districts to be redrawn. Basically, the idea is I'm going to go over my endorsements for this cycle. The video idea that I thought would win the 2022 target seats will be done at a later date, when the districts are fully drawn, and maybe after the filing deadlines, because after that point, there's no choice. I wanted to do them like a little bit before the filing deadline, so that they people actually have a chance, but the districts haven't been redrawn. And they're taking their sweet time drawing the districts to the point where it's literally going to be like, they'll be drawing the districts and the filing deadline will be the next day. And the redrawing changes the dynamics of the districts very much. Like North Carolina, people were like, oh, one district was drawn to have it so that they have like a lot of losses, but now they only have like one loss. The Democrats, obviously. So this is going to be a very interesting episode. This is going to be one of those long ones, really boring ones, I guess, because this is just how it ends up being. And the thing is, I want to try and endorse as many people as I can. I don't know how much I will, because at the end of the day, my endorsements mean literally nothing. But this is definitely just me trying to show support to the candidates that I want to support. So anyways, let's address one elephant in the room before I begin. My own endorsements for my seat. Honestly, I don't think I have any. The North Carolina Senate seat has no progressive running at this point, and neither does the home district that I currently reside in. Like I said, North Carolina's districts are being redrawn, because there was crying foul, so maybe I'll be put in a district that actually is good or competitive or anything of the sort. But I was drawn into Deborah Ross's district. A candidate literally just entered in the last election, so it's not like there are going to be a lot of challenges to her, so sucks to suck. I sadly probably will not be voting in the 2022 midterms. However, if I'm drawn into another seat, I might actually do it. I might vote. But either way, let's get on with the list. First, I'm going to go over all my incumbent endorsements, all the ones that are currently in office that are running for re-election. For the 2022 Georgia Senate race, I'm just going to flat out just say I re-endorse Raphael Warnock. Not because he's done really, really good. He's done average. But of all of the Democratic senators that are up for re-election, he's the best. So he's at the very least the safeguard. So anyways, now let's move on to the House incumbents. We all know who they are. Raul Khanna in California District 17. Raul Grijalva in District 3 of Arizona. Pramila Jayapal in District 7 of Washington. California District 12, Barbara Lee. Wisconsin District 2, Mark Buchan. Maryland District 8, Jimmy Raskin. Oregon District 3, Earl Blumenauer. Massachusetts District 2, James McGovern. Illinois District 9, Jan Kachowski. California District 39, Mark Takano. California District 10, Mark DeSauner. New York District 14, AOC. Michigan District 13, Rashid Tlaib. Minnesota District 5, Ilhan Omar. Illinois District 4, Chuy Garcia. Massachusetts District 7, Ayanna Pressley. Colorado District 2, Jenna Goose. Michigan District 11, Andy Levin. Missouri District 1, Cory Bush. Illinois District 6, Marie Newman. New Mexico District 3, Teresa Legar Fernandez. New York District 16, Jamal Bowman. New York District 17, Mondaire Jones. New York District 1, Melanie Stansberry. And even though she's not incumbent yet, it's pretty much guaranteed that she will be. In Florida District 20, Sheila Trifolis McCormick. She's, these are all the guys that I'm endorsing for re-election, but those are a given. Well, some of them are a given. I doubt many other people in progressive Twitter either know who Jenna Goose is and/or would endorse him. But honestly, Jenna Goose is fine for what he is. He's a slightly left lib dem. So, if he's a left lib, then that's fine. He's consistently supported progressive ideals, but he's not he's more of a go with the flow type. He's not a hardliner like AOC. He's more of just when he was elected, he was basically just I'm just going to be an average dem. So anyways, now let's move on to the seats that have not the ones that have no incumbents, but the candidates in that are running to get into the seats. First, we're going to start off with the Senate. Vermont is pretty easy. Peter Welch. Peter Welch is, even when he wasn't the guy who was just anointed to be the guy, he's been endorsed by literally, I think, Leahy and Bernie. So it's there's no one else going to run against him, so he's going to probably win the seat. Like, I mean, the seat's been heavily blue for a while. There's also been this, I mean, unless you're a believer of the conspiracy theory that the only reason that this seat was blue for a while was because of Leahy, but I don't believe that. So anyways, next person is the biggest seat, John K. Fetterman in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Fetterman really is, like, the make-or-break candidate. He is, like, I mean, if he wins, I legitimately think that he will be in the front line of progressives running in 2024. Because he's just there. He's got it. He's beating all the candidates in the primary easily, and in the general election, he's beating the two highest polling candidates. I mean, I don't know if he's been in a poll with Dr. Oz yet, but I guarantee you he's gonna beat him. Fetterman really is make or break, not only for progressives, but also Democrats. If they do anything to screw this guy out of the seat, they lose. Fetterman really is it. He's got bipartisan support. He's got, on the surface, he looks a lot like a moderate, but in actuality, he governs left wing. He's in touch with his community. He's just generally a really good candidate. Next one is Mandela Barnes for the Wisconsin Senate seat. Mandela Barnes is also up there. This seat is a highly flippable one, but it's slightly less flippable than Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania has already openly stated that there is no incumbent. It will be an open seat. Meanwhile, Wisconsin, if the incumbent does run, then it might be slightly less flippable than before. Mandela is a really good candidate as well. He's very similar to Fetterman. Like, he's a lieutenant gov who, like, ran as an insurgent progressive and won, and is essentially weaseled his way to have moderate Dem support because he's just there. He's even openly criticized, like, oh, we need to focus on bread and butter. There's, like, Medicare for all and stuff. But anyways, those are the two that really have the biggest chances of winning. There's a couple more, obviously, so here we go. The next one that I think has the bigger chance of winning than the rest of them is, not the rest of them as in, like, Fetterman and Barnes, but, like, of the rest of the Senate candidates I'll list, Lucas Kunce. Now, Lucas Kunce is very interesting. I really did not expect this. I did not expect him to do that big, but Kunce has done really well. Like, I mean, he's a rural populist type, and he's got similar appeal to, like, Fetterman, but he's just a normal guy. Well, he's a veteran. That's another part of the appeal. But either way, that's pretty good. In the Arkansas Senate race, we have Dan Whitfield. He was a candidate in this seat in the last election. He didn't do so hot. He actually wasn't even on the ballot in the general election. But he's now running against a Democrat, so there's a good chance he could be on the general election ballot. We'll have to wait and see. For the Kentucky Senate race, we have Charles Booker, obviously. Booker has done really well and has basically solidified himself as the candidate. Like, I mean, a lot of people, regardless of political affiliation, have endorsed Booker, and there really isn't any, like, big name challenger to fight against him. In fact, he was basically seen as such an eyeball that the many people were thinking, like, they were eyeing him to run for, like, Kentucky District 3, which is the only Democrat district in Kentucky. But, I mean, he chose to run for Senate against Rand Paul because you just really got a hate boner for Rand Paul or Mitch McConnell. Basically, Booker, his race isn't a winnable one. Realistically, it's not. But it's more of a symbolic victory. Like, we support him because his win would be really big. Okay, the next candidate is Morgan Harper in the Ohio district, in the Ohio Senate race. Harper actually ran for Congress in 2020, and, like, one of the big controversies surrounding her was that there was an attempt at a guy to race bait her. Like, basically, he was like, oh, is it a little interesting that all these white progressives keep trying to run against women of color? And then Morgan Harper's like, I'm black. What are you talking about? And he's like, I see the picture right here. And it's like, the picture proves that she's black. And, I mean, that was a really dumb thing to do. I really needed to run for this, but Harper would be a good choice as well. In the 2022 Florida Senate race, we have Alan Ellison. Now, I was originally torn with Alan Ellison and Alan Grayson because I liked Alan Grayson. I don't anymore because he's a scumbag, but, I mean, Alan Ellison, he's not really in the contention. Like, I really technically should have went for Grayson because Grayson's actually polling higher. So, but I'm ideologically more aligned with Ellison because Ellison is not a crook. Anyways, next we're going to be talking about the House seats. Now, just because I did try to focus on the ones that were viable to win. Like, I always try to focus on viable election wins, but you'll always get the, like, symbolic win. For example, Odessa Kelly. She's in Tennessee District 5. She was the first Justice Democrat in the 2022 cycle. I basically endorsed her because it's like, I missed Cory Bush, and I missed, I didn't miss Cisneros. I missed Bush, but, the first time around, not the second time around. But basically the idea is, the thing about Odessa Kelly is interesting because it's like her and the next couple of people, they didn't have Wikipedia pages, and then when they announced their candidacies, they immediately got Wikipedia pages because Wikipedia, and people are starting to realize, maybe we should look at these guys a little bit more seriously, just in case. Next seat is New York District 12 with Reina Abdel Hamid. There's a lot of controversy surrounding her, quote-unquote controversy. I really don't see the problem that some people seem to have with Reina Abdel Hamid. But she really is a candidate I think would really do well in this seat, especially considering, it's almost expected that it's going to be the same playbook as last time. Carolyn Maloney, Suraj Patel, and a progressive. Basically, we're trying to make it so that the progressive is a winning candidate. Next is Nevada District 1. We have the classic Amy Valila. Now, Amy, she really, she's a symbolic win as well, but it's she's such a symbolic win that it's I don't care. Let's put all of our money in her. I'm gonna put all of our money into her. I don't care if, technically she doesn't have a chance if she's running against an incumbent. I don't care. I'm going against the odds. Amy Valila needs to be the 2022's AOC. We need to get the 3 stars of knock down the House into Congress right now. Yes, there's 3. There's not another person. No. She's technically a symbolic win, but I really don't care. Treat her as if she is viable because she's worth it. She's legitimately worth it. She's an activist, a fighter. She suffered through a lot of hardship. We need to channel that into Congress. Next candidate is in North Carolina District 6, Nida Alam. Now, this is the seat that I was technically supposed to be in, but then gerrymandering happened, and this is the seat that I hope that I will be in, because Nida Alam is really the only candidate that is running for any House seat in North Carolina that I actually seem to like. So, hopefully I'll get to be voting for her soon. Next one is Maryland District 5 with Michaela Wilkes. Now, similarly, Wilkes is a symbolic win, not an actual win that we could potentially actually get, but it doesn't matter. I like Wilkes. I think she would be a great candidate, and the notion of beating Steny Hoyer is really good. Next is Washington District 2, Jason Call. Call follows me on Twitter, so I felt like I had to endorse him. The rest of the candidates that are following me, I might endorse you soon. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. Next candidate is Jessica Mason in Texas District 30. This isn't a flippable seat. It's a seat that used to be held by a multi-term incumbent, and now it's going to be vacated by her. And Jessica Mason is the progressive candidate in that field. So I think that her winning would be preferable than her not winning. Next one is Colorado District 4, Ike McCorkle. Now, McCorkle is another returning candidate, and he ran against Ken Buck, which is who's one of the biggest Tea Party supporters in Congress. So, I would prefer Ike McCorkle over a Tea Partier any day. Next, in California District 22, we have Brian Osorio. This is one of those really close flippable seats in California. One of those ones where those moderate Republicans are currently held and the moderate Democrats used to hold. It's one of those big purple seats, but maybe we can win it. Brian Osorio would be a good choice for that. Next, in Illinois District 7, we have Keena Collins. Now, Keena Collins is another candidate who ran this seat in the last cycle, but I didn't endorse her that cycle. I endorsed Anthony Clark because Anthony Clark was the person who ran that cycle as the candidate in the 2018 cycle, and everybody basically thought that Clark was going to win, but Collins ended up being polling higher than Clark. So now a lot of people have basically jumped ship to Keena because they objectively on paper they weren't that bad. There was really no difference between them ideologically. I guess technically the difference was Keena is not really Keena is not a socialist, she's a progressive, but Anthony Clark was a socialist. And then again, so was her incumbent, but Danny K. Davis, he's not going like a socialist no more. Next candidate is Isaiah James in New York District 9. Now, He, similarly, is a candidate who ran the cycle last time. He didn't do so hot, but I don't care. I like Isaiah James. I like his story. I think it's compelling. And his seat was... And he could win. I mean, maybe he won't, but he could. That's the thing. That's the thing that always has to happen. Like, we have to understand this. We don't know what's possible until it is. Like, I mean, Elliot Engel, he won, like, a primary with, like, 83% support in 2018. And then in 2020, he got beaten by, like, really close. Cori Bush had to run against Lacey Clay 2 times until she won. Ro Khanna ran for Congress 3 times, and in that 3rd time, he won. It's not possible until it is. New York District 11, Brittany Ramos de Barros. Now, here's the big... Her candidacy is a little controversial because she did a striptease. Oh no. I remember conservatives made a big deal about this, and they were like, oh look, she's doing like a strip show. And it's like, well, thank you for sending me softcore porn, I guess. I don't know why. This isn't an L, this is a W. She's running for the seat that was lost by Max Rose, who is running for the seat again, so the race got a little bit harder for her, but who cares? Brittany's got it. Next candidate, Colorado District 3, we have Sol Sandoval. I guess I'll just call her Sol Sandoval. She's a community organizer, activist, social worker, and she's running against QAnon's second favorite congresswoman, Lauren Boebert. Now, this cycle, like, this seat is interesting because I did endorse the person who, like, Dianne Mitz Bush the last cycle, but I removed the endorsement because Bush basically did a complete 180 in order to try and appeal to people. Like, oh, I'll win by being a moderate, and it didn't work. Like I always say, it doesn't work, but they tried anyways. So anyways, I think she's going to be Sol Sandoval. She's already got a lot of prominent endorsements by, like, Colorado progressives, so I think she has a good shot. New Jersey District 10, we have Imani Oakley. Imani Oakley is the policy director of the New Jersey Working Families Party, and she's basically running to end the New Jersey political machine and the Donald Payne political machine, and is running as an open socialist. She might not win, but then again, people said that about another political dynasty with the Clays, that she could try. Texas District 28, we have Jessica Cisneros, the Justice Dems' first candidate in the last cycle. She unfortunately didn't get to be in Congress like the second JD in that cycle, but Jessica Cisneros, she has a good shot. She nearly beat Henry Cuellar, and it wasn't until, like, Pelosi came in at the very last second to save him, but a lot of people are pointing out that there's a possibility that she won't do that this cycle because he nearly killed, or actually did kill, a big legislative priority for her. So maybe Jessica Cisneros has it in the bag this time. The next candidate is in Kentucky District 3, we have Attica Scott. Now, originally I was suspicious of Attica Scott because originally Attica announced that she was running while an incumbent candidate by the name of John Yarmouth was currently in the House. And I was a bit suspicious because, like, John Yarmouth is actually a pretty good candidate. I don't see why a progressive would want to run against him. And I was fearing, like, maybe she's trying to be the next Diana. But then a lot of people were saying, like, maybe John Yarmouth is planning on retiring. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Fair. I'll keep Yarmouth around for now. But until when he announces that if he announces that he's retiring, I'll support Attica Scott. And guess what happened? Yarmouth is out, so Attica Scott is in. I'm perfectly okay with Attica Scott now. I technically always was, but I just wanted to hold hope of not running against incumbents. So the next candidate is a candidate for a seat that actually technically might not even be around much longer. Pennsylvania District 18, we have Summer Lee. She's a DSA-affiliated member of the State House, who successfully primated a 19-year incumbent, and she threw her hat in the ring when the incumbent of this seat retired. But as I said, this seat might be not around, so I'll probably be changing her thing on my website pretty soon. She'll either run for another seat or she won't run at all, which will be disappointing if it's the latter. In Texas District 35, we have Greg Sasser. Now, Greg Sasser is another, like, priority seat. I like all the seats that have a Democratic incumbent not there. Like, I mean, that's why I wanted to do the other thing before I did this, because I wanted to show you, like, the priority seats. And then I endorse the people, and you're like, oh, these are the people who are in the priority seats. Though I will consistently post about it on Twitter, so, I mean, if you follow me there, you'll see who I support in each of these really high-profile seats. But anyways, Sasser was originally, like, running against someone, and they were, like, fearing of leftist infighting, and then that person decided to run in another seat when the lines were redrawn. So Sasser is a really good person. He seems like he's a DSA member, so I want more of those in Congress. So, I mean, I'm down. The next candidate is Montana District 1 with Tom Winter. He was a former state representative and a candidate for the at-large district in 2020. Now that Montana has 2 seats, he's chosen to run in the one that is more favorable to Democrats. I say more favorable, but it's still not good for Democrats. Like, Democrats are still not going to, like, it's very unlikely that a Democrat will win the seat, but, I mean, it's bound to account for something. So the next candidate is, dang it, I just realized I have a mistake on my website I'm going to have to fix. For New York District 3, we have Malene Durango, but on the website, you're not going to see it at the time of this episode when it comes out, because I'll change it right after I'm done recording, or maybe I won't, but it's listed her as Thomas Winter. She ran for the seat in the last cycle, and she's running again in this cycle, but the difference is the incumbent is actually not running for the seat, so the seat kind of became a little more favorable to her, so, I mean, there's a chance she could pull it off. The next candidate is in California District 34, David Kim. He was a progressive candidate against the faux aggressive Jimmy Gomez in the last cycle, where, this is why I wanted him. I was always like, David Kim, you gotta run. I don't care what is going on, you gotta run. Because his seat was literally too close to call on election day. That was how close he was. He was so close that people were literally, like, holding out that David Kim could be, like, a little bit of a surprise before we enter the next Congress. But no, sadly Gomez won by a slim margin. And honestly, Kim would be a good candidate. I know he's a Yang Gang, but he's a good Yang Gang, so that's good. He's like a Yang Gang with principles. So the next candidate is Lauren Hubbard. Now, here's the thing. He's actually running in 2 seats, technically. Now, the seat is currently District 22, but Brian Osorio is running in District 22. But that's because, due to he announced that he was running for the seat prior to redistricting, and this seat is held by David Nunes. David Nunes is resigning, so this seat is now going to have a special election. So they will be running a special election in the old barriers. Then when the next election rolls around, he'll be in the normal barrier. So it's 22 now, but it will be 5. So Hubbard, I endorse you for both. The next candidate is Donna Imam. She's a computer engineer and a nominee for District 31 in 2020. Now she's running in District 37. But the thing is, she's running against an incumbent, Lloyd Doggett. And this one's going to be slightly harder for her. But she could pull it off. I originally listed her as like a Jessica Cisneros-like candidate. But then it was funny because Cisneros lost. And then Imam actually made it to the general election. So it was like, well, that's funny. So we'll have to wait and see how things play out for her. Now, the next candidate is Daniel Lee in District 37. This is the seat that Karen Bass originally held, but now it's going to be held by whoever wins this election. She's running for LA mayor. I really don't care. She wasn't even that progressive to begin with. She was kind of progressive, but kind of not. She was like she was in the round of like, I won't endorse against her, but I also won't endorse her. Sort of like Katie Porter. She's fine on some things, but on other things, she's like complete garbage. So I honestly don't care. But Daniel Lee, he will be a good candidate to replace her. If you think that she's a progressive, then Daniel Lee is even more so. Next candidate is, in Florida District 10, we have Aramis Alaya. She was the former state attorney for the 9th District Court in Florida, and one of the big things that made her notable was that she openly refused to seek the death penalty. Like, whenever there was a case that would involve the death penalty, she would just say, no, I refuse. I refuse. Another thing notable about her is that she's endorsed by Shaquille O'Neal. And the third thing that is actually important is that she's running for a seat that is vacant. Val Demings' seat. So she has a higher chance of winning. The next candidate in the House is Texas District 15, Michelle Vallejo. She's a small business owner and community activist. The seat that she's running for is Democrat held, but they redistricted it so that it's GOP leaning. So I don't know how much this seat will be. Maybe she'll have the advantage of incumbency, quote unquote. But we don't know. So anyways, that's all the House people. Now let's move on to the governors. For the New York gubernatorial election, I endorse Jermaine Williams. And that's it for the gubernatorial elections. But now there's also some foreign elections. I've only endorsed 2, but I will be endorsing in others in the future. I will be talking about these 2 and others, but I will be endorsing in others eventually. The only 2 that I have right now is Lula da Silva, who is very likely to win in the next election cycle, and Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who is very likely to lose. But anyways, right before I wrap up this video, I guess I should do this because this makes sense. I'm going to be going over the ones that I endorsed that are in seats that we can win. Like, I mean, I love all these guys, but let's be real. We gotta focus our energy on the ones that are in seats we can win. So here we go. I'm going to list all the ones in seats that we can win, and focus your energy on them. First, here are the ones that could win a hypothetical Democratic primary against the incumbent: Jessica Cisneros, David Kim, Amy Valila, and Reina Abdelhamid. And, well, at least the ones that are in Democratic primaries that I think you should support. Here are the ones running in open Democratic seats that I think you should support, because if an open Democratic seat is a good friend to progressives if you pay attention hard enough. Aramis Alaya, Daniel Lee, Attica Scott, Meline Durango, Summer Lee, Michelle Vallejo, Jessica Mason, and Greg Sasser. The ones that are in flippable seats that I think we can win are John K. Fetterman, Mandela Barnes, and Brian Osorio. Now you might say, that's a bit low, but don't be bleak. We still have more seats that I haven't had candidates yet. Ones with candidates I'm still vetting. So maybe I'll make a part 2, or maybe I'll just announce them on Twitter and website, and we can call it a day. Anyway, sorry if this episode seemed fast. I realized while I was recording it that this was probably a bad idea because my throat hurts really, really bad. And like I said, not a very good idea. So I'm going to down this whole bottle of water and maybe go to sleep. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when a future video comes out. And if you just want more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, check my articles in the independent report, or consider supporting me on Patreon.